Greetings, ladies and mentalgets, and welcome to this latest episode of Tales from Outer Space, where I take a space-related story from around the internet and read it out loud for your enjoyment. All the relevant links are down below. Please don't forget to do the usual YouTube gumph, because if you don't, the nanite swarms will steal your other sock. But more importantly, as always, I hope that you enjoy. I'd quickly like to thank the following Tier 5 patrons and channel members for supporting the channel. Datamagnet and Bob the Dragon. Thank you very much. Story number 1. To the Death, written by Mr. E. Monkey. The Gabaraxtal are a young race, by galactic standards at least. They had a substantial cultural history on their homeworld, with a peaceful civilization reaching back thousands of eons. And had only joined the Cataran Alliance 3 heptades ago, having discovered FTL propulsion only a generation ago. Still, they had integrated into the larger society well, despite the numerous biological and cultural differences. Interestingly, the species that the Baraxtal were said to have the most in common with were the humans. It was a peculiarity, along with countless exaltations from other member governments within the Alliance, that led the Gabaraxtal Stellar Navy and merchant fleets to join the Terran Liaison program. Gurgrellan, noble captain, pondered these things idly, while sitting in the command cushions in the Flight and Operations Control Center of a freight cruiser, quick and honorable. They were transporting kilotons of bulk fuel home for the local Cataran trade hub, having offloaded a hold full of spicy Kabaran berries, which had been quite popular and extremely profitable, a delicacy throughout the Alliance. A great many humans seemed to enjoy them as well, which was why Gurgrellan kept a substantial stock on board. Chief Petty Officer Jones was extremely fond of brewed Kabaran juice, frequently commenting on how copulatingly much he enjoyed it, an expression that Gurgrellan still found strange. For all of his quirks, Gurgrellan enjoyed the conversation that she shared with Jones over steaming mugs of the juice, which is why she was smiling broadly as she handed him a fresh mug when he walked into the control center on that day cycle. "Thanks, Skipper." Jones smiled back as he gratefully received the steaming mug, taking a moment to savor the pungent and spicy aroma of the beverage before drinking deeply. "I have meant to ask you, Chief Jones," she said after finishing her own mug. "As your human ranking system is so different from ours, do ship commanders in your Terran Navy frequently gumball about?" She paused for a moment as she saw the confused look in his face. "I only ask because you frequently call myself and other noble captains Skipper. I have not seen the rank title in your database, so I assume that it is a slang term. I don't think I have pranced about since I was a youngling, so perhaps you can understand my confusion." Jones frowned for a moment, thinking a moment before replying, "To be perfectly honest, well, yes, it is a colloquialism and not a technical rank title, but I'm not completely sure where it comes from. I think it's an old Earth language, but it, He was interrupted as the floor pitched violently with the blast that shuddered throughout the ship, knocking him into the console and sending a few other members of the control crew tumbling to the floor. "Report!" Gurgrellan shouted. "Old business now." Curiosity would have to wait, as the full focus is on keeping a ship and crew safe. Silverton Bilks was at the back on his feet in an instant, scanning his console. "Noble Captain, sensors detect a heavy armed ship 2AU to starboard. Shields raised automatically once they detected incoming weapon fire, but FTL and long-range communications were targeted directly and are not responding. Shields are..." She could hear the panic creeping in as he looked at the console again. "Shields are at 3%. We can't survive more than 2 or 3 more strikes like that." Gurgrellan nodded grimly. "Very well, Silverton. Sound the evacuation alarm and signal the hostile vessel that we surrender." Jones was back on his feet quickly, dabbing blood from a small cut at his forehead. "They even bleed red like we do," thought Gurgrellan. "Wait a second, Skipper." Jones grumbled as he looked over his shoulder at her seat console. Vilks, is that ship Draconian? As the young subaltern nodded in the affirmative, Jones allowed himself to smirk. Can we make a short-range visual communication with those jerks? Glancing at the noble captain, he continued, Trust me, I have this under control. Half an hour later, the Draconian commander and his boarding party stormed through the docking airlock, their mottled red carapaces glinting evilly under the alert lighting of the quick and honorable, looming over Kruglan and her Terran liaison officer. Every sentient in the local arm knew that the Draconian were mighty warriors, physically stronger than almost any other race, having evolved on an extra-massive death world. They were substantially stronger than even the humans, who were, at this point, by no means weak. It was for that fact that the Draconian commander humored the humans' unexpected request. He sneered and laughed menacingly, a sound that reminded Jones of that one time that he put a gravel in a blender as a child. So, you foolish human, that is invoke the Draconian tradition of the Shi-Shi-See-You, a ritual challenge to individual combat. Now I understand. You are so old and feeble that you feel that you have nothing left to lose. The commander laughed. More of that gravelly sound. If your friends are so weak and cowardly that you must fight for them, I accept your challenge. I'll be sure that you do not suffer much. Now, as it is custom, what are your chosen weapons and manner of combat? Jones smiled and drew 2 small glasses and a thin metal container from a cargo pouch and his duty trousers. I challenge you to a combat by poison. I drink, then you drink, and so on. Who dies first loses, of course. This was met by more gravelly laughter from the Draconian commander. You really think that your weak, fleshy body can handle any poison better than the Draconian? Your challenge is accepted. The combat began a few minutes later in the ship's mess hall. Kagrillan's entire command staff, as well as the Draconian raiding party, were in attendance, as not only did this affect all of their immediate futures, most of them were morbidly curious to see such an odd challenge. Jones opened his mental container and poured a dark amber liquid into both small glasses. Raising the container on the table, he picked up one of the glasses and nodded grimly at the Draconian. I go first, according to custom, he said, tilting his head back and downing the glass of liquid in a single gulp, slamming the glass back down on the table with a slight grimace. He looked at the Draconian. Your turn. The lumbering brute grasped the small glass gingerly in his rather large claw, not wanting to appear fearful. He also emptied the glass quickly into his maw. Almost immediately, his eye stalks drooped alarmingly, sputtering, struggling to respirate while scratching at its own mandibles. The Draconian shrieked, By the brute, father, what is this? Before suddenly dropping to the floor, still and silent. Shocked murmurs rippled through the mess hall as the Draconian silently carried their leader back to their ship. They had never seen such a stunning loss. Once they had departed, and the quick and honorable was free to carry on its course, Kagrillan rushed to her liaison side, helping him to his feet. Hang in there, Jones. He'll get you to the sickbay, and our medic will try and neutralize the poison that you've ingested. Can you tell me what it was? Jones grinned as he stood, brushing her arm away. No, don't worry. It's just little ethanol. She frowned. That's it? I didn't realize that ethanol was so toxic to other races. Jones laughed. Most races can't handle ethanol like we humanoids can. In fact, a bunch of them, like that crab fellow, don't even know that we can metabolize it as well as we do. He paused for a moment, as if trying to recall something important. But don't worry about our friend there. There wasn't enough in that shot glass to kill him. But when he wakes up, in about 7 or 8 hours, he might be wishing that he was dead. Kagrillan laughed at this, playfully punching the chief on the shoulder. "You know, I should write you up for drinking while on duty," she winked and continued. "But you did shave my ship, so, why don't you sit down and pour us a couple of those? I have a few things I've been meaning to ask you." End of story. Story number 2. Don't Mess with Humans, written by Lane Meller. It had been a long, tough mood cycle on the treacherous planet, but the first objective had been achieved. Cut off the head and the rest of the body dies. So too was it with enemy engagements, no matter what style. You kill the commander and the rest just flailed about and became easy prey. "All of you officers are dead. Surrender now and we won't kill the rest of you." Quarrel snarled into the odd communications array that they'd scavenged from one of the slain humans, the strange language difficult to navigate with his double tongue. "You son of a bitch," a human said in a voice oddly distorted by the primitive piece of technology that they were using to talk. "I am not the descendant of a human species called dog. Now surrender or die. Your officers are all gone. You have no one to lead you," he said curtly back to the enemy he knew that moved beyond. He would kill them if he had to, but it could be worth a few coins if they decided to ransom them later. Then a low chuckle sound came through the device. It made Quarrel's hackles raise even through the low static that had been continued through the entire conversation. They knew that sound. Many of the humans had made it before, usually before doing something insane and deadly. "Oh, you poor motherfuckers! The officers are there to protect you, not us," the masculine human voice practically purred. "Scorch the earth, boys." End of story. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed, and if you do, please consider supporting the author, even by popping over and leaving a thumbs up or a nice comment, just to show your appreciation for the story. However, if you wish to support this channel, there are links down below which will help immensely. I will see you all in the next one, and until then, I hope that you have a fantastic day. Cheers.